Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
And George is back from his spring outbreak. And now it's time to get serious. George, are you ready to get serious once again?
Sure.
Are you ready to leave behind the undead, walking dead, flesh-eating zombie monsters that we've stuck you with for the past couple episodes?
Hey, listen, it was fun, but sure, what's next?
He's ready to move on.
Are you ready for something completely different?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Well, good, because Travis and I have a delightful little British indie film for you from the early aughties called 28 Days Later.
From the early oddies?
Yeah, man. Late 90s, early aughties.
No, actually, it's 2003.
What is an
Yeah.
oddie?
Or
Like,
two.
Aught 1, Aught 2, Aught 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The early OEs.
Oh,
I never heard it referred to as the early oddies.
The early 2000s,
Aughties,
but not
oddies.
anything before or not anything after 2010. Those
like
early 2000s.
Right after the what do you call it? Y2K?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this
Word up.
movie is 28 days after Y2K, I think.
Yeah.
I might have made that up. I might be right, though.
I'm not going to fact check you. Maybe Dan in post will fact check you.
No, he won't.
Only me.
Yeah. Dan in post never
Never checks
corrects
on
Dan in real time.
He's
Right.
got a pro-Dan bias. What can I say?
Yes, right.
So, George, you just finished up 28 Days Later? A Danny
Yes,
Boyle
I
classic?
watched the movie. Yes.
He's not even drinking.
I can't.
I know.
I'm on pain meds.
Oh, man.
It might make it more fun if you.
No. Let's
Nah, don't do
try
that.
to keep him upright for the whole
Yeah,
show at least,
Let's
please.
not. Check, please.
So what are your early impressions? I don't want notes. I don't want rambling. I just want early initial impression from George, having just watched 2002's 28 Days Later.
It was an old story, but it felt fresh.
Okay.
There was some, predictable plot lines.
It was very tropey.
Yep. There was some good dialogue that happened in the beginning that tells you exactly what's going on. You can't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
There was plenty enough about this movie that was very different that, like I said, made it feel fresh. For example, the only thing I knew about this movie before going into it was that the zombies were fast.
Right.
Like, that's the only thing I remember from 2000.
Well, it was in the commercial.
3.
I believe the trailer showed you them running. So
Whatever.
it was like, not
I
a
don't know.
surprise.
I remember I was like a teenager skateboarding,
Mhm.
and my buddies were like, "Yo, did you see that movie?" And I was like, "Nah." And they were like, "Zombies are fast, bro." And I was like, "Cool." And that was it.
Well, is this during the craze of like Resident Evil?
I don't know.
Like the video game?
I don't know.
Resident
Trying to
Evil had been
remember.
out for a few years. I think we were probably 2 movies deep in that franchise by now, but the movie
okay.
franchise never really stuck to the zombie thing as
Right.
well as it should have.
I just remember in the video game they introduced the fast zombie, like the zombie on roids.
Okay.
Like you heard the thumping of their feet. They were coming at you.
Right.
It wasn't that you would hear the and you knew.
Yeah. Everything about this zombie was fast. Like,
Right.
one of the things that's sticking in my mind is when what's her name? Selena.
Hmm.
Did I get that right? Selena takes out Mark.
Yes.
Oh,
And
man.
I'm thinking,
Yeah, it was rough.
okay, I see the wound. She's thinking he's infected. This is all happening. But like usually in a zombie movie, that's drawn out. That's over the course of hours or days or weeks, right?
Got
That
minutes.
gets infected. They get a fever. They get weak.
Mhm.
They're like blah, blah, blah. And then eventually they die in turn. No, this is like, 10 to 20 seconds.
Yep.
And I'm thinking when she goes at him with the machete, you don't see much, but you do see his arm come off. And I'm thinking, oh, she's just severing the arm. And then
Right.
she just like keeps going, and it does that Hitchcock thing where you only hear it, you don't see it.
You feel it.
Yeah, and
you
you're
see
like,
it.
and it's like, no, she's putting him down.
Hmm.
And you're just like watching, like, okay, that's how it is. And then she explains that you don't have
You don't have time.
time. Like they turn like that. which is cool. Like I said, that's what made it feel new.
There definitely was a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like in I Am Legend, whereas, there's a lot more fear to me. Like when I watch a movie, like the zombie isn't scary to me, but when they can move like that, yeah, that ups the game.
Definitely.
Yeah, every zombie is an overmatch against a single human.
Right.
So you have to be ready.
But I think the rabies thing kicks it up a notch because it's, you have this. This was the zombie that was just kind of driven to human flesh, and it was like almost like they drew it out. But with these things, they're so fast and they're like a rabid animal. Think of a rabid dog coming at you. You're hearing their toenails on the ground. It's quick. You have no time to think. Like that scene where they're changing the tire.
Yeah,
like that's scary. To me.
Another thing. I was thinking, because I compare every zombie movie to The Walking Dead. There was not even a thought to, all right, let's stand our ground, let's take these things out, and then do our tire thing. That was not even an option at all.
No, because any kind of splatter of blood gets into any pore or opening in your body, and it's over. Yep. Yeah, that to me, that's what makes this movie.
That's why it felt new. It did a lot of good stuff like that.
What's funny is things that seem tropey, like him waking up out of a coma and leaving the hospital in his gown, and all that stuff is very Walking Dead-ish, but this movie came out before that book came out. So the comic book came out a year later.
Okay,
I
hadn't even thought. I had no idea how old the Walking Dead books were. I thought this movie definitely came out before Walking Dead.
Yeah, only 1 year.
But that surprises me.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be longer, but
I'd be curious to find out if Kirkman was inspired by this movie at all when he was writing that.
Yeah.
Because I know the original idea of Rick Grimes was him watching TV with his wife, and they hear someone at the door, they open the door, and this thing comes in at them. That was his original, 4 or 5 page short. Had nothing to do with him being a cop, had nothing to do with him waking up in a coma, all that stuff. So I don't know where that came from, as opposed to when this came out, if he had been inspired by it or whatever. I've never seen an interview where anybody asked it.
It's very similar.
Yeah. There's a lot of it that coincides. So
I like the, this story of Rick Grimes as I know it. With him being an officer and getting shot, being in the hospital, being in a coma, waking up.
Yeah, that adds to me. That's what makes it.
It's
special.
A good start.
Yeah, because you wake up and it already happened. Like with this guy in this movie, he wakes up, he has no idea what happened.
Yeah, it happened.
What happened? Right, what happened?
I think it's interesting that the movie actually begins with what happened, though. That seems kind of strange. I mean, I don't mind it. But it's an interesting choice to give, that much to the audience.
Yeah.
And then to lean so heavily on the fact that your main character doesn't know the thing you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That was one of my notes where I was like, they should have did that as an expose later. That maybe one of those military guys from towards the end were part of that event. And it's like a flashback, and then you say, oh, that's why they're this way. That's because, I like the whole idea of not knowing. But you were given everything in the very beginning, so you're just basically sitting back saying, okay, let's see them deal with it.
But at the same time, every Romero movie has the incident we don't know about. So maybe it's just trying something different.
True.
And luckily, that was the last time we ever had to worry about a massive outbreak from a research lab.
What's funny is they do that in I Am Legend as well. They show you everything that happened through news reports and whatever, so you see it happen, and there's no mystery, but the mystery is the cure, like trying to find the cure. The mystery is trying to figure out why Will Smith is the position he's in. What's he doing? Oh, he's doing research. Like all these things they kind of let you know later.
Yeah.
But you're exposed to it right away. You find out that it's this and this and this, and then you're left
exposed.
It's exposed.
Yeah, this one, it's not so heavy on the mystery element. And really the Romero stuff, I don't know if it's really a mystery as much as it is like, an urgent action kind of thing that just happens to leave one little bit of the plot unsolved or unpainted. This one, there's really nothing but adrenaline for the first hour and 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. The whole damn movie's adrenaline.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Definitely.
I mean, there's little spots here and there, little peaceful moments that you're just thinking, it's a peaceful moment. Get ready for, some shit to go down in a second. But sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But this whole movie was nonstop. I was surprised at how long the movie was. Didn't feel that long. I feel like it flew by.
And it's definitely an escalation from what you've been watching.
Sure.
Like it's off the chain.
Yeah. We had cool elements of the main characters using. I don't even want to call them zombies. They're not zombies. They're like
what do they call
infected? They're infected with this rage virus is what it was.
Yeah.
So like at the end, they used the infected, to escape.
And they kind of introduce another thing that's kind of tropey on Walking Dead is the family element. Like usually you get like a Dawn of the Dead or a Day of the Dead where it's everybody's kind of military. They're all kind of banded together. It's kind of Rambo-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're saved or they find this dad and his daughter. Like it's just the dad and his daughter, and they're just figuring it out, which is kind of a new thing. I mean, you have the little girl in Night of the Living Dead, but she's just basically knocked out.
She's
in the
already
basement.
dead. Yeah.
She's not helping.
No.
She's pretty good with the trowel, though.
She's good with the trowel.
Yeah, in the original, yeah.
But even in like in the 70s and 80s, they didn't really touch on kids, like how they would deal with this, their involvement.
Sure.
So that was kind of new. And it's basically become a plot line for Walking Dead. Like that's the whole storyline is what's the world going to be like when these kids who are dealing with this every day actually become adults.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by their isolation shots when he's walking through empty London in broad daylight. To compare those with like the New York City at the end of Zombie 2 or, any of the Day of the Dead aerial shots where it's just like, oh yeah, there's still some traffic over there, but
it's a full set. It was almost like they built something because it looked lived in. Like it was covered in weeds. Like to be able to shut down traffic in London just to junk it up, film that little part, and then clean it up. It's almost like it was all CGI, but it wasn't.
I was impressed.
I didn't even
think
of that, really.
Yeah, I was just like, man, they did the work. Finally, someone does the work.
Yeah, someone does the work.
I kind of thought it's just one thing I noticed because of like the cover of season 1 of The Walking Dead, the DVD case. It's Rick Grimes, like he's
going into the city.
Going into Atlanta on the highway on horseback. And on the other side of the highway coming out of Atlanta is all of these traffic jammed, abandoned cars.
Right.
Like the highway out of Atlanta is completely just jacked up, like with just abandoned cars. Just,
no one was going in.
No one was going in. Everyone was trying to come out, and everyone died on the way out. Like it was such a cluster F getting out of Atlanta, and he's going into Atlanta on horseback. It's because of that cover. Wherever there was an empty street, like a completely empty freeway, I was like, yeah, right. Like,
yeah,
completely
empty. It would
empty.
have been congested everywhere.
It would be congested everywhere.
Oh, I don't know. How does London work?
And that, and to know that, like, their last thing that they did as a society was try to get everybody out. Like, it would have been it wouldn't have been that clean.
It depends because, like we keep referencing the same thing, but I know in like I Am Legend there was a time period. There was a long period of time where people realized that something was happening, and then shit hit the fan, so people were stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were able to evacuate. With this, I'm assuming there was only obviously 28 days from first infection to when he wakes up. So I know in The Walking Dead, they're like it happened almost instantaneous. They blew up all the roads. They blew up they basically shut everything down, and people were obliterated. So that's why there's so many supplies everywhere, because no one really hoarded and ran.
Right.
So
that was another thing I noticed. Like, really, the grocery store hadn't already been raided 100 times.
So with this, it's like you really don't know, because he was asleep, and they don't really show you after the animal situation. It goes to black, and then he wakes up. So you don't really know what happened in between those two times.
But they did say there were some things that pointed to what was going on. Mark's story about being in the train station and there being so many people, and there'd be people, trampling over other people, and the only thing you could do was climb. That city didn't look like that was going on right before shit hit the fan, There was another thing. I think Selena was talking about, you saw the riots on the TV, but then they didn't go away. They showed up at your front door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're in the street right outside your house. And it was everywhere. I don't know. I mean, it makes for a really cool shot, like Dan said. It's amazing that they were able to make that shot and do it right.
Some streets were backed up.
Yeah, the tunnel was backed up.
Yeah, you don't really know how the evacuation system is over there. Do they have like one route in, one route out, or does every road take you somewhere?
I don't know. It seemed more bare than it should have been, for my taste. But it was a cool shot. I have to admit.
Did you, Dan? Did you see the? As soon as I saw it, I felt like I was watching the movie Zombie, where the one infected is looking in the mirror and the little girl's hanging from the back of the mirror. Where, like she's in the room. It's after the red dresses and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And she's hiding behind the mirror.
Yes.
And that the infected is like 4 inches away from the mirror, just staring at her.
Oh, yes.
But he's staring at himself.
Right, not realizing she's behind. Yeah, that's a good shot.
But they just did like a little pan shot of her, and then the little pan to the left, and then he's like right there. He's like 2 inches from that mirror, and he's just kind of breathing like he smells something. He's not sure. I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely an inspired shot. All you need is a wood splinter to the eye. Good stuff.
Zombie 2 rocks. What's up? Now, I love the part, speaking of Zombie 2, you remember we talked about how in Italian culture, I have to assume as an outsider that them seeking shelter in a church is like kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Like, yeah, of course you would, because that's your place for safety. So sanctuary in the church. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, in England, he tries to take shelter in the church and is immediately betrayed by infected. I'm like, very English.
Including the pastor.
It's so English. It's perfectly English.
Yeah, I think the one infected upstairs was the actual priest or clergyman. Because I think he had a collar on, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he called him father, I think.
Did he call him father?
Yeah.
Which kind of gives you a little insight on the character, though, because that's his church.
Yeah.
He went there because it's familiar.
He was looking for help.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the wrong place.
The wrong place.
But they were all the wrong place, so like,
Yeah, there was nowhere really to go.
I have a note on here. No government, no police, no army. George is going to love this movie.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of like they didn't come across a lot of guns and everything, so it kind of felt more real because they're not gonna find guns everywhere, especially in a country that's pretty much without guns. So
yeah,
you're gonna have to stumble upon a military group or something that's been overrun to get that kind of artillery. So you're stuck. You're like Shaun of the Dead. You're gonna have a paddle or a bat or something. You're not gonna have
A cricket bat.
a cricket bat. You're not gonna have an M16 or an AR, especially over there, unless you come across the group that wants to rape your women, and you just take their guns.
You know what I thought that group was going to be? What was the group called at the end of the railroad?
Oh, the Terminus.
Terminus. So I thought that was going to be.
Yeah, it was possible.
Maybe in the sequel.
Dan, in the Walking Dead, Terminus is a place that
Sanctuary.
a sanctuary that attracts people from all over.
It's the where all the railroads in Georgia kind of meet. It's like the old train station where all the railroads would retire, basically. Like they go out throughout the state, but then they all kind of end up in this hub. So the Terminus people would put signs up saying, if you want to be saved, you want this, that, follow the tracks to Terminus.
Do you know what the Terminus people did?
What did they do, George?
They were cannibals.
What? I've actually heard about
Yeah.
the cannibals from my coworkers. So
Yeah.
there you go. I mean, that's what
where
you do,
I thought.
right?
That's where I thought this movie was heading, but
Mm.
I wasn't like
Kind of
totally.
worse.
Yeah. Eat
Kinda
you,
worse.
rape you. What's worse? I don't know.
I really like that kind of horrible human moment when he finds his parents in the house. Like that
Yeah.
weird
Mhm.
sense of relief, that it never happened to them, but at the same time, like the anguish.
Mhm.
Ugh, that's a complex sandwich of emotions.
Yeah. It's one of those things, especially like we all have kids, so we're always thinking, like, if something were to go down, do you throw them in the car and try to survive, or do you throw them in the car and find a local garage and just let the car run? Like,
Mm.
you don't really know what you're going to do, because how are you going to survive with 4 kids running around, one of them's under 5? Like, you're done. You're a sitting duck. And then you run into a group like that, or like the Claimers. Now your daughter's
Claimed.
for her, they've claimed her. Now they're going to do stuff to her. Like, you're better off just
Just parking a car.
parking the car in a
Yeah.
garage.
I don't know that that's the official perspective of the Remedial Film Class Podcast. That might be a Travis perspective.
No, believe me, I've thought of it. Like, I'm not thought of doing that, but I've thought of, what do I do if like everybody's like, oh, you should have, just in case, you should have a bug out bag and you should have a plan. And like, if this happened and shit hits the fan, all of a sudden there's people eating people. Like, what are you gonna do with 4 kids?
Grab a knife and fork, motherfucker.
Start Terminus.
And you live where I live, where if you even try to get to the mountains, you're gonna get stuck on the Schuylkill and you're gonna die there anyway.
Now,
Yeah, our
where,
geography is not good.
where exactly is the Schuylkill?
That's the traffic helicopter. right?
Traffic helicopter.
Is that an old callback to
This-
an early
this-
episode?
Yes. The Schuylkill Expressway is not an expressway.
It runs along the Schuylkill River.
the Schuylkill River.
The Schuylkill River
It
runs past
basically-
the art museum in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
down Boathouse Row.
Everybody knows about the boats on Boathouse Row. I'm sure.
It's a highway that runs along the side of a mountain. There's falling rocks sometimes.
But it's the only way to the Poconos.
It's congested as a
yeah,
MF
there's
for
no way.
every single day, twice a day.
So we would have to bug out to the shore, I think.
We're not bugging out anywhere, dude. We have terrible geography for
Yeah,
bugging
no.
out.
No bugging out.
Yeah.
Unless you do it in the middle of the night.
Unless you have a helicopter.
You need like a 2-hour head start.
and a flyboy.
And a flyboy.
You need a flyboy and a helicopter. You'd be all right.
You know what else you need in your bug out bag, guys?
What?
George?
Goggles. I feel like the people in this
Yes,
movie really
goggles.
pushed the limits of blood splatter rules, especially in the kitchen attack, where it's like there's blood on all those people now, and they've got wounds. Like, I really think they're
Mhm.
all infected right now, and they don't know it.
I felt that way when she was hacking away at Mark.
That's what I mean,
like,
man. Blood
If that's
everywhere.
your idea of dealing with it, you just kind of infected everyone.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, you're
strange.
right. It's a crime of passion.
But at least Frank had a riot shield. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that made me feel good when I saw that.
I liked Frank.
Me too.
Good
I like
dad.
Frank in everything he does. He's like a big character actor in England.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Frank. It really sucked that when they got there, to the.
Why would he look up?
Because there was a crow. I don't know.
Dogs can't look up. Why would you?
Listen, I felt really bad that like no one was there and he was having a moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, crap. And then they end up being there. It's like, whoa, where were you 10 seconds ago, dude?
Maybe they were planning their trip to the Winchester. I don't know. All I know is that he should not have been looking up. He had to know that the infection can come from or blood droplets, right?
Well, yeah.
But do you expect a dead body to be directly above you at all times?
No.
Maybe you should, though.
He saw it. It kind of looked like
Did he
saw
see
what
it?
it was. I don't know.
No, I think he was looking up. And
Crows are not that interesting.
Listen, I felt bad for the guy. It sucked that he had to go out that way.
Yeah.
His one character
all
flaw
that.
was that he was into bird watching, and it finally got him in the end.
Yep.
But what's good is like he was a dad to the end.
Sure was.
Well, and he
He
did his
was-
job, right? He got her.
did his job, got her
daughter
safe.
to safety, to a
Mhm.
group who could carry her on beyond him. Like that's the work. He did the thing.
He did the thing. He
Yep.
didn't go park in a garage.
But then he had that
somewhere. You're
awesome transformation where it's just like, whoa, this movie's not playing.
right.
Like you don't really see a lot of transformations, so they like feature Frank, and he's your bub for a moment where he's just like
Yeah.
a featured act. Yikes.
And this movie's a good example of things that we talked about during the 80s debacles. Not much needed for makeup to make them into zombies.
I mean,
No,
he could have been
just a-
bluer. It's true.
Just a little bit of corn syrup and
He
some
could
red
have been bluer.
red contact lenses. Boom. You
know
got
what?
zombies.
You know what I thought about this movie? The zombies just weren't blue enough.
They were not blue enough. And the 3M blood was real nice, Clark.
The 3M blood in this movie was on point.
That was on point.
On point. It photographed very well.
Sorry, Tom.
But it is super gross. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
watch
it's-
Dawn of the Dead, it's gross, but like also charming. When you watch this one, it's just gross. Like, ugh, yuck.
Yeah.
Ew.
And they
all
really
the
don't do
time.
much
Ew.
bitey, pulley. Like it was just a lot of ripping and scratching. Like it was
Yeah.
very animalistic.
It's
Yeah,
almost kind of like why are they doing it anyway? Like
It's rage.
I know it's rage, so you just kill whatever's around you that's alive because of rage.
But not
I
other
guess.
ragers, which is kind of strange.
Yeah,
They don't fight each other. They only fight the unraged.
that's true. I didn't think about that. Like I know they show the. It was the same premise in I Am Legend where the infected were basically raging, and it showed the rats, the lab rats, and how they react to anything. Like you could wave anything in front of them, and they would just attack.
Mm.
And that's the way these things were. But yeah, I didn't even think about they don't attack each other. That would have been a cool element if they were just so enraged that they were just ripping at each other too.
Yeah, I mean the
That'd be
major army guy was saying, you know, this zombie's gonna tell us how long it takes for a zombie to
Mhm.
die of starvation. And
That was cool. I like that.
that was cool. But I was kind of thinking like, well, I mean, like, there's a lot of shit out there to eat, like other zombies,
Rats,
like
bugs.
rats, animals, anything. I don't know.
Well, that's why you keep it chained up. Like, I guess we'd catch a cat.
Yeah, what I'm saying,
He's
what
the
I'm saying is
control
like,
group for a wider experiment with some
Yeah.
flexibility built in for those
Right.
who found other food stores.
Right.
yeah. No, I
For-
thought that. I mean, I'm not saying like, you know,
They just had them chained up until they flattened the curve. That's all.
that's right. Just for
It's
like 10
understandable.
days.
10 days. 10 days flattened.
Simple.
Well, then what's his name? Cillian Murphy is over there shaving, and I'm just like, ugh, like it's
Yeah.
the equivalent of like, oh, hey, this N95 is a little stuffy. I'm gonna drill some holes in it to get a little better airflow. Okay, cool, great idea to
I want to
cut
put
your
the cool
face.
Jason Voorhees hockey mask holes in my mask.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I'm just gonna shave and make sure I get some nice viral entry points here on my cheeks. What in the world? But I guess he had to be a little more dreamy for the ladies.
He had to be dreamy because he looked pretty damn bad. I don't care if he was showing non-angry pickle or not. He was looking pretty bad.
Sad pickle.
Self-reflective pickle.
Self-reflective pickle.
Confused pickle, maybe.
No,
Depressed pickle.
It was sad. It was just,
I mean, 28 days of coma
pickle.
will do that to a pickle, I'm told.
yeah.
It's definitely not an infected pickle.
No.
No
There was
rage in the pickle.
No raging going on there.
Wow.
Oh, my. Speaking of the SA-80, did anybody else spend the entire last third of this movie just like gawking at those bullpups?
Guns.
Wait, what?
The guns. The guns.
Yeah.
Guys,
What?
The guns. It was a transition from pickles to guns.
Oh, yeah. Wait, was it you said to me before? I think your batteries are dead in your Segway.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Ow.
Ow. Hi, this is Dan in Post.
I thought it was a pretty smooth segue. Penises
It was.
to firearms. That seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, weapons are weapons.
Weapons are weapons. Hey,
That's
so,
true.
George, have you ever seen the SA-80 before? Were you familiar with that rifle at all?
Not really.
This is my pickle. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Oh, jeez. So the L85A1, also known as the SA-80, is the kind of the M4 equivalent of the British Army, only like way less reliable. Like a vastly disliked amongst the ranks kind of weapon because it falls apart and is unreliable.
Okay.
But it's cool as hell and it's green, so I like it.
Okay.
Supposedly the A3 is actually quite good. That's what I'm told.
Okay.
Yeah, but this movie's full of them, and you don't see them very often, right? Like on American TV, you usually only see them with like the Queen's Guard, you know, standing out front of Buckingham Palace. That's about the only time you ever see them. Yeah, those guys, they carry them.
Yeah. I thought they carried like muskets.
No, they carry automatic weapons.
Interesting.
Be quite honest with you, Dan. I didn't even
Knew there was guns in this movie?
I didn't even notice the difference.
What?
I was like, it looks like an M4 to me.
But it's bullpup. The magazine's behind the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Longer barrel.
I just didn't even think
for
of
the
it.
size, like.
Yeah.
The only weaponry I got excited about was that freaking jet at the end of the movie. I thought that was pretty sweet, flying in and out of the little caverns. I was like, I want to do that. I want to fly a jet like that. But the guns didn't excite me.
Guns.
Maybe it's because the guys using them were kind of like
Douches?
Yeah. Like one couldn't even, like he was like, oh, I hit one. It's like, dude, you're in the military.
I liked them in, like, when you first met them. I thought maybe a couple of them were shifty. I was like, okay, maybe two of these are going to go rogue. But no, they were all douches.
I knew right from the get-go before they even got there. I was like, they're going to Terminus. That's how this is going to go. As soon as they got there and they were like, oh, yes, we have safety. I'm like, why are they the only survivors there?
Right.
There's no other survivors that found their way there. Just those 3 people. Where are all the other survivors that found their way there?
Where have all the cowboys gone?
Right?
Yeah, I hear you.
I knew immediately. I was like, I don't like these guys. I don't trust these guys. All of our main characters are going to get eaten.
George's bullshit meter was on.
Yeah.
At 11.
Yep.
Shenanigans. His shenanigans meter was blipping.
There were certainly shenanigans going on.
Damn.
How was your Greek mythology radar going there, George?
I'm not big on the Greek mythology. I mean, it's not that I'm against it. I'm just not familiar with it like you are.
What in the world? Oh my gosh. It's not that I deny it exists, but
no, what was the Greek mythology references that I missed?
So
please?
There's a whole Trojan War motif in the last third of the movie. At one point, Cillian Murphy is being held down by the mean army guy, and over the army guy's shoulder there's like a Greek statue looking at you, like center frame.
I saw that. Had no idea what it meant.
So that's
I saw it.
Leia
This
Koan.
is a film class, so we're going to get into that.
Yeah, it's like Leia Koan. I'm not so great on my Greek pronunciation, guys. Leia Koan. Let's call it Leia Koan. That sounds more legit. in the story of the Trojan War, he is the character that tries to warn
Milwaukee.
So Laocoon warns the Trojans not to accept the Trojan horse from the Greeks.
Right.
And gets murdered in a very torturous way by sea serpents for daring to kind of push back against their acceptance of the Trojan horse.
Okay. So who would be the Trojan horse in the symbolism?
Well, it's interesting because they have a little bit of it in their zombie friend, and I think it's really supposed to be Cillian Murphy by the end. Because I think the misdirect is you expect that they've kept the zombie guy in the house, and he's going to be the one that breaks through. But then you cut to like the Batman / Jason Voorhees part where Cillian Murphy's... I'm going to call him Cillian and Cillian because I don't know how to say his name.
Cillian.
So Mr.
I call
Murphy...
him Scarecrow.
Also tried out to be Batman in that movie, oddly enough. Would have been competed with Christian Bale. Would have been a pretty interesting Batman, a little too small.
Yeah, he's a little puny.
But either way...
He doesn't have a jaw. No jawline.
So Jim, not from The Office, but the other Jim, when he becomes Batman or Jason Voorhees and starts picking those guys off one by one, you realize that they invited him in to their circle, and now he's the thing that destroys them.
Right.
And it was just, whatever was within him, right? He's your Trojan horse, and within him, whatever it is that they turn on just lights them all up, and then they have a very bad day. But it's interesting because you've got the statue where this Laocoon guy is, being bound by these sea serpents right next to an infected who's bound by chains. Like, there's a lot of cross symbolism there.
I didn't see that. I learned something new every day.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice.
I noticed a statue.
Yeah. I also noticed the irony of these people who, were seeking out this place for safety, end up being what destroys this place. Right?
Yeah.
I did see that, and I thought it was ironic, but
don't you think? Sorry.
It's like rain on your wedding day, basically.
Rain on your wedding day.
But no, I did think that. So kind of, I guess it was kind of like intuitive more than like, hey, I studied Greek mythology and I know, because all that Greek mythology stuff is like, it's like in our id anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows Greek mythology, whether they know it or not.
Right. I mean, I guess that's how it's done. Like when you watch a movie like Alien, you know that there's some inspiration from the Trojan horse with Alien.
Yeah.
This was a little bit more subtle. Like, I wouldn't have thought of Trojan horse because you think of the Trojan horse as a weapon, not so much as a mistake or they let them in, like you said, they let them in because they wanted the women. That's not really a Trojan horse because their plan wasn't to get in there.
I mean, it kind of was.
Oh
no! I mean, Cillian and his group, they wouldn't be the Trojan horse because they weren't trying to take over. Like, it would be different to me. Like, Trojan horse would be if they acted like one of their people were injured, so they could get into this. Establishment. Yeah. But with this, it was more like they were just looking for their hope for saving humanity. Kind of put them in a position where they were in danger. They didn't put themselves there purposely like a Trojan horse.
Right. They came in with like a genuine interest and need.
So I didn't think of that until now you're talking about it. Yeah, the chained up, infected, getting loose inside the house.
That might be your actual Trojan horse because he's already there and they know he's there and they're aware of the risk of having him there, but they want him anyway, just like the Trojan horse story where they're it's probably dangerous, but it's cool.
Doesn't he break his chains?
Yeah.
So technically he unleashes the Trojan horse on them.
Or he unleashes we're really beating this metaphor to death. The thing is, it's on the nose in that they show you a statue of it, but it's not as on the nose as they like roll in a truck full of zombies and let them go, which would have been awesome. Honestly,
They-
back up a truck full of zombies into that place and just let them out. Like, yeah.
They did that in Walking Dead. That's one weapon.
That's one of the things that they do.
The zombie bomb. The box truck full of zombies breaking through the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Do it a couple times. So
There's one where it's a truck yard. It's a truck yard.
Oh, yeah.
It's
like a mousetrap.
tractor trailers just lined up on a long
paddock.
Yep, a long dock, and you trip whatever by doing just by being there.
Well, they know you're out scavenging, so they kind of entice
right. So
you by
they set the trap, and then when you trigger it, like just all of these trailers open, and
Pop
there's just
open,
zombies, and you can't get out, and you're dead. Cool.
I think it's
Good
neat that
stuff.
all these movies and shows, even the ones that only sort of borrow from one another, all exist in the same like playground, right?
right.
Dawn of the Dead has semi-trucks, so Walking Dead has semi-trucks, but the implementation's way different. Same thing here, you've got a very Dawn of the Dead shopping trip, but it's not nearly as like silly as Dawn of the Dead, but it's still silly because it's a shopping trip in the middle of a, end times kind of thing. Like, just really interesting that they all play with the same toys.
Right.
But they
Yeah.
all try to say their own little different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's kind of, I guess, the Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Which one's the mall? Dawn of the Dead. In Walking Dead would be when they go on their, what do you call it? Supply runs.
Yes.
And they end up, a group of 10 or whatever are in the mall, or they're in a Walmart, or they're in whatever. It's a total homage to that. But you never get the commentary that you get from that movie. You don't get like the consumerism and all that stuff. It's just a dangerous place to be.
No, in Walking Dead, like I never, they do have like a kind of like a relief or like a giddiness to finding a good
honey hole.
Yeah, to finding a good spot. Especially but like in Walking Dead, I never remember it being like Oreos or like, something like that. It was always like, we found penicillin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Carl found that vat of pudding.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, they do it sometimes, a little tongue in cheek. But they never have them do a pie fight.
No, they never do. No.
Missed opportunity is what that
This
is,
is true.
guys. Missed opportunity.
Silly.
Now, George, you've seen Batman Begins.
Yeah.
It's probably been a little while.
Yeah, sure.
Do you recall the fight on the docks? It's like the first time Batman in costume really kind of puts himself out there, takes out a bunch of Falcone's dudes, ends up with Falcone tied up on the spotlight.
Yes.
He's like using the shadows. You don't really see. Yeah, good stuff.
The blocking of that fight and the blocking of the final attack from Mr. Murphy, Jim, very similar, like remarkably similar. The two scenes just mirror each other in a lot of ways, and I would like to, at some point,
Begins that old? Holy shit!
because we saw it in college, so I guess it would have been 05 or 06.
Wow.
I did not notice
Yeah, I
that.
wonder if Nolan kind of.
05, yeah. So he actually had plenty of time to see this movie and be like, "Hey, Batman should do that." I love that shot when you have the bad guy off in the distance, and then just the blur of Jim goes right by the camera. Like, yes.
And I like how they kind of juxtapose it with how the zombies are how they're acting.
Oh yeah.
Which kind of makes her think he might be one, because he's already covered in blood.
Yep.
And he's raged, but he's raged for a different reason.
He's enraged.
He's enraged. Yeah.
He's not infected with rage.
He's not infected with rage. But he's so just pissed off. Because I guess that might be a commentary in here too. Like, the human being is capable of being these things without being infected.
That's definitely. I mean, they definitely.
He's putting his thumbs in his eye sockets.
They definitely say that. I mean, that's what the Major's whole argument was.
The virus just unlocks what's already there, man.
Yeah, it's like the Venom symbiote. Just takes what you are and just magnifies it.
For the last 28 days, I've seen people killing people. The 28 days before that, I just saw people killing people.
Right. If I were to tell you that a truck full of soldiers were to blow up, it's the same thing.
It's not part of the plan.
It's not part of the plan. Everyone loses their mind.
I don't think we've talked enough about how awesome Naomi Harris is in this movie. Selena.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, she makes the movie.
She's badass.
Mr. Murphy is great. He has a good arc, but she's just consistently awesome the whole time through.
Mm-hmm. She could have done without her hacking markup.
Oh, no, you have to have that.
No.
But it kind of it definitely tells you enough about her in that scene. I understand why it's there, but it did seem to be, it seemed to be a little extreme.
A lot of splatter in that.
At
made me
least
a
let
little
him
nervous.
start coughing. Maybe you should rub his eyes twice before you hack him up.
No, you got to establish right off the bat that she doesn't have time to risk
playing
it.
around.
Yeah, she's got no time to play. Because you needed that line.
You know who she reminds me of?
Who does she remind you?
Michonne.
Yeah. She reminds me of Tammy. For some reason.
Tammy.
Like old.
Like
Tammy.
our friend Tammy?
Yeah, like from like 15 years ago. Not Tammy now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
She kind of reminds me of Moneypenny. You know.
Moneypenny.
From those new. Because that's who she
Oh, the
plays.
new ones, right?
Because it's her.
Yes.
She plays
But
her. She plays
back
that
to back to the point you were going to make, Travis.
What's that?
You need that. You need that scene because it sets up
Yes,
the
definitely.
very end when he says, "That was longer than a heartbeat."
She says, "I love you," and he says, "I know." Yeah.
No.
You need that.
Oh, jeez.
Wait, what is it he says to her?
He says something about like, because she says, if you're infected, I will kill you in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. That's right.
And he said, and you know, when at the end or whatever, you know which scene I'm talking about. He says, that was longer than a heartbeat.
Longer than a heartbeat. I was waiting for the "Take My Breath Away" song when
I know.
it was very Top Gun-ish.
Yes.
You could be my wingman.
Bom,
No,
bom,
you be mine.
bom.
Yeah. Bom, bom, bom.
Yes.
Bom, bom, bom. That's the third time I've sung that on this show.
I know.
very
A lot
weird.
of Top Gun references.
Also,
Maybe we should watch
you
it.
earlier referenced "Where Have All the Cowboys Gone" by Paula Cole. That's our second Paula Cole reference on this show.
That's not good.
I don't know, man. It says something about you because you keep bringing it up. I don't know.
What does it say? I guess it depends what movies I'm talking about.
It's probably just your deep-seated connection to Dawson's Creek, and that's okay.
Oh, God. I didn't have that, but okay.
Oh, my
I
god.
was only watching it for the girls.
Sure.
Sure.
I
I was a big fan of Pacey.
Pacey was one of the dudes, though, right?
Yeah, no, Katie Holmes. I watched it for her.
Gotcha.
I was into her then,
She's
I
in
love
Batman
Katie
Begins, though,
Holmes.
so that brings it all full
Yeah.
circle.
and she looked pretty good in that movie.
And then she quit.
And she quit.
Man.
Her husband made her quit because he's insane. But anyway,
I
we're
don't
not going to
know.
add him, are we? But
Yeah.
George, did you watch this movie on a DVD or on a Blu-ray?
I watched it on a DVD, and the quality was not great.
So here's a funny story about this movie. If you got the Blu-ray, it would look exactly the same until the very last scene.
Really?
This movie was filmed on handheld digital cameras in 2001 and 2002 with the same resolution as
flip
a
phones.
good old-fashioned SD, like 4x3 tube TV.
Wow.
Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome
Wow.
isn't going to be able to save this movie. Like, it's always going to look like butt for the first, like, hour and 20 minutes.
I guess that's part of its charm.
Yeah.
There is an alternate ending, too. Like, there's an ending where he's dead. He didn't survive.
Mm.
And also, I
Which is
think
cool.
that one is also shot on 35 millimeters. So it'll look great on
Right.
the Blu-ray. But the majority of the movie is going to look exactly like that. Which, you're right, it's part of the charm, but it also looks like butt. And it's kind of a shame that you'll never be able to clean that up.
Yeah. I did notice that, and I thought it was because I've been watching everything on Blu-ray or I've been
Right.
renting it in HD, and I popped in this DVD and I'm like, oh, this looks terrible. I guess I got used to the good stuff.
Well, what's interesting is this is, one of many films from the era that were filmed either on handheld digital or on low-quality digital. And there really
Yeah.
isn't much of a ceiling for them to improve. Like, you're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah.
The weird thing is if you look at a lot of the Marvel stuff from the past couple of years, they shot it in varying resolutions, but they finished all the effects at 2K, which looks great on Blu-ray. but already you're having to see an upscaled version of a lower quality source to get to 4K.
Yeah.
And so if they're ever going to go true 4K with those movies that made them all that money, they would have to go through and redo all the effects at 4K on the intermediate, which is never going to happen.
Mm.
So those movies, which have dominated our box office for the past, 10 years, 15 years, are going to be stuck in that era of 2K effects.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I go through that at work all the time. I always tell them, you can't add pixels.
Right.
So give me the high-res image. Don't give me 72 dots per inch and then expect me to make a billboard out of it. Like, I need high def, so then high res, so then I can size it, because if the picture is 13 inches by 15 inches, the billboard is 48 feet by 14 feet.
Mm.
That's 1-to-1 ratio. They're blowing that shit up 1 inch to 1 foot. You can't do a 72 dot per inch thing, because then it's gonna look like, on the billboard, it's gonna look like a VHS.
It's gonna look like an Atari game.
It'll look like one of those mid-90s, like...
yeah, it'll look like Mario Brothers up there. Like 8-bit. But they don't understand. People don't understand pixels, so they don't understand you can't add definition to that stuff. So, like you're saying, like I've had that problem where I've made layer effects on a file, and then when you try to make it bigger, you have to make sure you click all these little tabs to make sure it sizes up every layer. It's kind of like what he's talking about with the Marvel, where if you don't do it in the high res when you make all these changes, and then you have to size it up to something, you're screwed, because now it's going to be pixelated. So, ugh.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I don't want to talk shop, but
it's one of those things where we're going to see for a while here, everybody's going to be saddled with what decisions they made on the front end. And meanwhile, 35 millimeter film will continue to look better at 8K and 16K.
So convenience is one thing, and that's why some of the classic movies still look... I mean, you could watch a 35 millimeter print of King Kong, and it still looks cleaner than some of the movies that are done today.
It might look better than King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, that's a different episode we can talk about.
Hey, a bit of news for our Remedial Film Class listeners. A German DVD company recently released a 1,000 run, a limited run of 1,000 DVDs, not Blu-rays, of the movie Elves, which you'll all remember was my first slasher. And so I picked one up, and let me tell you, I think that movie was shot on video, because it looks like ass. There were scenes I just squinted at a 4K TV, I was squinting at this dark scene, just like, something is happening.
Yeah,
I don't
want to watch that on your 4K.
I don't know that they're going to be able to clean that one up any, but boy, that movie sucks, and I highly recommend it if anybody can grab that German DVD. It is a crazy movie, and it's not good.
That's funny. That's like when you say, ugh, this is gross. Here, taste this.
Exactly. Hey, God, I about threw up. Do you want to smell this?
Yeah.
That's Elves. That's the Elves experience.
Oh, my God.
Yikes.
Put that on my list of movies not to watch.
Hey, so Travis, what is George going to watch next?
After much debate, because we're, would you say we're going away from the zombie realm and into a new...
We've shut the door on zombies, man. We're back to the mainstream.
Mainstream. Okay, so this movie, I'll live or die by this. We're watching 12 Monkeys. Do you know anything about 12 Monkeys?
Nope.
Nothing.
I don't think so.
Okay. What do you think it might be about? Don't say monkeys.
I mean, besides that.
On a distant planet, run by monkeys, there are 12 jurors trapped in one room.
That's where my mind went. I was like, are you
calling dirty ape?
I'm like, 12 monkeys? Like
12 angry monkeys?
Are you talking about like jurors?
Exactly.
Like,
all right, we'll take that home and chew it.
Is it like basically, juries are like, kind of...
It's 12 angry men on the planet of the apes is what it is.
So glad you have no idea what this is about.
No, I have no idea.
And as an added bonus, Dan, am I allowed to reveal this, Dan?
Sure.
Or have you watched it?
I haven't. I've never actually seen this movie, guys.
Okay.
This is a first one for me.
Dan has never seen this. It's a first one.
Nice.
So if it sucks, I gotta both of you teaming up.
You got to
on me.
carry the whole thing.
I'll
man.
carry it.
And you got to carry the weight of it.
Ooh, something to look forward to, listeners.
I think it's a good choice. It plays into a lot of things we've watched.
Listen.
So I'm not going to say anything.
Let's do
I'll
it.
get your impression.
Sounds good.
I'm excited about that.
Me too.
I guess I am too. Woo woo. Thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class Podcast. As always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. You can also find our group, the Extra Credit Discussion Group, at facebook.com/groups/remedialfilmpod. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at remedialfilmpod, and you can even email us if you are so inclined, remedialfilmpod@gmail.com. If you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, you should be aware that we're also on your favorite podcatchers like Apple and Spotify, even Amazon. And if you're listening on Amazon, Spotify, or Apple, you should know we're also on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch on your TV, do it. We'll see you back here next week, as we go to a weekly format for the classic 90s sci-fi time travel legal drama. Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys.
12 Angry Monkeys.
On the Planet of the Apes.
We should get Kevin Smith to make that movie. 12 Angry Monkeys.
Yeah.